And what was it like doing business in Asia?
It's a different mindset. I mean, I'm not a drinker, but in China, you'd have to drink, at these meetings and stuff like that. Meetings take all day. In North America, you make the deal, you handshake, and you walk away.
You've ridden 400,000 kilometers in 8 years. You went from Bangkok all the way to
To
Everest.
yeah, to Everest Base Camp through Laos. I had a little bit of an issue with some cancer, which is all done now. 9 years ago, it was prostate cancer, and that really kind of woke me up and said, "Listen, do I just want to work all the time, or maybe just start to enjoy life a little bit?" I decided to do something else.
Hey folks, Pete here from Thairish Times. What's the story? It's been a while since I said that. Today we're going to meet a Canadian named Mike Gagne. He's going to tell us his whole life story. He's going to talk about how he ended up in Asia, doing business in Asia. Then he's going to talk about a cancer scare that he had that made him think differently about life. And then Mike is going to talk about a really interesting hobby that took him on a crazy adventure from Bangkok all the way to Everest Base Camp. That's some interesting stuff. And in this interview, you'll hear me asking Mike about the skills it takes to be a good salesperson. And after I asked him that question, I was doing the edit, and then I thought, well, there's 32,000 people on this channel. I'm sure some of them are good salespeople as well. So I put it to you, what does it take to be a good salesperson? If you have some skills you want to share, put them in the comment section. Let me know what it takes. It's definitely something I'm interested in, and I've been thinking a lot about. And I'm sure that there are people here that know a lot more than I do. And if you do, share it please. Or you can email me or get me on Instagram. ThairishTimes@gmail.com. Thairish Times on Instagram. Right, I'm talking too much. Let's get into the interview.
All right, Mike, how's it going?
Very, very good.
Cool. So tell everybody where you're from.
I'm from Canada. I was born and raised just north of Ottawa, and then I've lived in obviously Ottawa area, and then I moved to Vancouver, Seattle, back to Montreal, and now I'm currently residing in Thailand.
Okay, so you've lived all over Canada. So
Yeah,
you mentioned that when you were growing up, you were big into competitive skiing.
yeah, it was. I grew up in a ski area just north of Ottawa. My dad was a mountain manager, and we skied every night after school. So, we come home from, didn't do any homework, but just got on the skis and skied to 11 p.m. Our ski area was open to 11 p.m. every night. So we got a lot of skiing in, and it was a lot of fun, but it wasn't a big mountain. So it kind of, steered towards competitive skiing because it's a little bit more challenging. And went up through the ranks, provincial ski team, and almost made it to the national team, but a lot of crashes.
Cool. I've never skied, but I've often seen, I know Canada, it's big over there. So
Yep,
what was
definitely.
life like growing up in Ottawa?
Well, yeah, like I was actually on the Quebec side, but because it's right on the border. It's like Ireland and Northern Ireland, and a little bit of conflict between the two provinces sometimes. But yeah, so we were on the Quebec side. But yeah, it was great. I mean, it was a great childhood. I was really lucky to be able to ski all the time, like, for the 3 months, 3.5 months of winter in Canada. And then the rest of the time was training and getting ready for the ski season. That's what, doing summer jobs, making money to afford to be able to ski, which was, I guess, that was my drug.
Mm. So it'd be fair to say that you had that kind of adventurous spirit from a young age.
Yeah, I mean, oh yeah, from, I started skiing at 6. I started competing basically around 10 years old, and I stopped competing when I was 25. So I did a
Wow.
little bit of everything. And then I realized that, I needed to make money, and there's not a lot of money in skiing. It's a lot of fun, but I ran a ski school. There's not a lot of cash in that, and then I got into sales, which was kind of a natural thing, progression from skiing. And I've been working in sales all my life, except for now, which I'm mostly just motorcycling.
So let's get into sales then, because your first contact, your first visit to Asia was involved working. You were at the time you were working for the largest wood flooring importer in Canada,
Yeah,
and
it's
that
a
brought you
large.
over to Asia.
Well, it was a large wood flooring distribution company, also lumber products. And I was living in Seattle on my first trip, and I was looking for an engineered product. And that time, the market was very heavy on solid flooring in North America. And so in Europe, they call it parquet, which is an engineered flooring. And so this Chinese supplier took me to China on my first trip. It was like, my God, unbelievable. For 10 days, all they did was fly, trains, planes, and automobiles all over China, looking at different products. And this was in the year 2000. And it really opened my eyes to the opportunities that at that time China could offer to North America. So, and then it just exploded from there. 6 times a year traveling to Asia, suppliers in China, Thailand, Indonesia, and Malaysia. And the business grew from 0 to $40 million of just import products. And our sales overall were 500 million in the company. In the wood flooring, we were over 150 million. So it was a huge, huge increase in sales.
Wow. And what was it like doing business in Asia compared to,
Nuts.
yeah?
Yeah, it's a different mindset. I mean, I'm not a drinker, but in China, you'd have to drink, at these meetings and stuff like that. Meetings take all day. In North America, you make the deal, you handshake, and you walk away. In China, you have to establish a relationship with the factories and stuff like that. You learn really quickly not to throw all your eggs in one basket. You need several suppliers because they can change their mind overnight and decide that they're out of this business and getting into another business. And we had large customers like Home Depot and Rona right across Canada and US. And I did some business actually in England. We had a warehouse in Liverpool. And so the market was really crazy, and it just was relentless and growing leaps and bounds every year. So it was a little bit nuts. And then I decided to go on my own.
You started your own business.
Yeah, in 2008, I decided that, I'm tired of making money for other people. So I already had all the contacts, and then I just became an agent for a bunch of factories, the middleman, and marrying up factories with suppliers and stuff like that. So I had customers in US and Canada and a few in Europe. And then COVID came and just basically destroyed everything.
And you're retired now.
Basically, yes, not much choice, but it's okay. At the end, the last 8 years, which is I've really dedicated to riding motorcycles. Before that, I was always doing a little bit of business, keeping my feet wet with suppliers, really good, some really great suppliers in China. And you learn to find the right guys. And then, but I had a little bit of an issue with some cancer, which is all done now. But 9 years ago, it was prostate cancer. And that really kind of woke me up and said, listen, do I just want to work all the time, or maybe just start to enjoy life a little bit? So I decided to do something else.
Were you living in Asia when you had that scare?
Yeah. I was actually I was doing a test at that time. I'm not running anymore, but at that time I was running like 8 kilometers a day, 5 days a week. And I went for this major test at a hospital for my health. And doctor said, well, everything's good except your PSA is a little bit elevated. And I said, what's a PSA? And she says, it's an indication of prostate cancer. So let's check it in a month. And in a month, it went up a little bit. And I said, well, I want to know. And in Thailand, it's really easy. They can do a biopsy the next day. So I got a biopsy done. And 3 days later, they said, yeah, it's all good. And I said, yeah, great. And they said, no, you have cancer. So yeah, it freaked me out. And because I was exercising, but that has nothing to do with prostate cancer. So I knew somebody that knew somebody that knew somebody, and they fast tracked me in Canada, and I got the brachytherapy, which is they insert these radiation seeds in your prostate. It's quite a process, and it killed it. So let's hope for the best that it doesn't come back. So
Yeah, well,
yeah,
I mean,
but it's a wake up call.
When that happened, like, because I just couldn't think, if I was in your position, I'd be freaking out. I would be, I mean, a big ball of stress, you know,
it was
like that.
unbelievable. It's like somebody hit you in the side of the head with a 2x4. I mean, it was just incredible. And but luckily it was the early stage, and it's curable, and they don't have to pull all the tubing out, which is, you know, the scary part, because a lot of guys get everything taken apart, whereas the brachytherapy is it's invasive, but it's not it's painful the process after, but it's much easier to recover from that. So everything, all the piping is working good now.
Before we move on to your hobby, I want to know just any tips, like what makes a good salesperson?
You're a good salesperson. That's why I mentioned yesterday. You sell yourself. You never get down. You know, it's all about a really great salesman. And I've used to have like 60 guys across Canada working for me, and always the top guys were all guys who were experienced. They knew their customers inside and out. They knew what they needed. They knew about the customer and what the customer did, you know, whether it was a fisherman or a hunter, and he could relate to them and then find the product and deliver the product that he needed. And that's what makes a great salesman. It's a guy that's relentless, hardworking. There's no 9 to 5 job. It's 24/7. And guys are successful. There's two types of sales guys. There's the one-shotters, like the guys that sell real estate. And then, you know, they have to be very aggressive, make that sale like a car salesman. And then there's the service guys, like what I did. And that's building a customer and building up the relationship over a period of years, and you increase your business with that customer. So it takes a lot of work.
Okay.
That's about it.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely interested in maybe going down that route maybe at some stage.
I think that,
trying to
like,
feel it out.
from what I see, your videos and stuff like that, you have the gift of the gab, and you're also, you don't bullshit people. You tell them the facts. You help them to create and build their business. That's what makes a good salesman. I used to do DIY clinics, how to install hardwood floors in the dealer showrooms at nights, weekends, and to help promote my product and drive it through the store. And I did a lot of seminars, tons and tons of seminars at the dealer level, training reps in the store how to sell my product with 20 other, you know, manufacturers in that retail store. So I had to be the guy, the go-to guy. So when the customer came in, they had questions. Who do they call? They call me. And that was very important. And then my role changed. Then I became a buyer, coming to Asia, buying products, but then trying to put those products into the certain dealers and supply my salesmen with tools that they could go out and make some great sales. It's very simple.
Yeah, well, you can tell you're a people person as well. I can tell you can relate to people. So let's talk about your really interesting hobby. I'll let you get into it.
Yeah, I mean, I was never a big motorcycle guy. When I was ski racing, you know, I was training, I was cycling. I didn't really have time for bikes, and I didn't have any money anyway. So, but I did ride. I grew up in the country. I was driving tractors when I was 11 years old. You know, the ski area had tractors, dump trucks, all kinds of vehicles. So I was driving at an early age. And then my friend had a Vespa, and the other one had a dirt bike. And I had a Volkswagen Beetle when I was 12 years old, driving around the back roads and stuff like that. And so we would trade up and stuff like that. So, you know, we all learned how to ride bikes. But my interest wasn't really sparked until I lived in Seattle and decided, you know, midlife crisis, I was going to buy a motorcycle. And I went out on the Saturday and came back with a 650 V-Star, a Yamaha. But I didn't get to ride it much because I was working, you know, all the time. And so I rode very, very little. But when I did ride, it was really enjoyable. And then I moved back to Montreal, and the roads in Canada, as you know, especially in Montreal, are horrible. and not very motorcycle friendly. And so are Quebec drivers as well. So I decided to sell the motorcycle, get a four-wheeler, and play around on the weekends and stuff like that with that. And then only until I came back into or started living in Thailand that I really got interested in motorcycles. And I can kind of give you kind of a gist on what happened there.
Yeah, well, let's get deeper into it because you've ridden 400,000 kilometers in 8 years.
Yeah, I was doing average 50,000. One year I did over 60,000. That's the year I went to Mount Everest base camp. That was a big year. Well, 12,000 kilometers 1 month.
Tell us about, well, that's crazy. Tell us about that. You went from Bangkok all the way to Everest.
Yeah, to Everest base camp through Laos. And it was an organized trip with a company called Trans Asia, because you need special paperwork to enter into China. And you need even more paperwork to enter into Tibet. So unfortunately, it was only 30 days. It worked out to about 33 because I needed a couple days to get to the border. And I don't know. Well, they did that because not everybody can take 45 days off of work and etc. And it's a long trip. So we only ended up with 6 motorcycles and 5 pickup trucks that were, all-wheel drive for 4-wheel drive pickup trucks. So it was a very challenging ride, lots of riding. You can imagine it's an average of about 400 kilometers a day. So when you have a day off, that means that you have to ride extra every other day. And some of the temperatures were down into 0. The elevation is at some places 5,300 meters. So you're really sucking wind when you're trying to breathe. But the experience was like spectacular. Riding through the Himalayas is just like mind-blowing. It was mind-blowing.
What were the roads like up there?
Some of the roads were amazing, and some of the roads were like the roads from hell. I remember one day they said, yeah, we're going to take the shortcut. And it was all off-road with a lot of corduroy, which is really rough dirt road. And we had a couple of crashes and stuff like that. And it was like the road from hell. Another day, we did 650 kilometers on the Trans-Tibetan Highway, which is a 2-lane highway. And it's completely destroyed with trucks coming at you every 5 seconds. It was insane. And we ended up in this trucker's stop for the hotel that night. And it had no facilities in the room. They just had the slit trench up on top of a hill. So just to say, I wasn't eating that day because I didn't want to go. But the experience overall was really, really good. Snow, cold, but riding to Everest base camp on a motorcycle is exhilarating. I mean, I still get goosebumps on my neck from thinking about it.
What was the route? You went up from
so
Bangkok into Laos, was it, and crossed in from the
you
border?
You go basically to Chiang Kong. So Chiang Rai. Then there's Chiang Kong. There's a border crossing there, Friendship Bridge, and then you go into Laos and you cross Laos at Udomshai. It's halfway, and then you get into a big city called Botan, which is in Laos. It's turned into a Chinese casino place, and it's really horrible. And then you get into China, and basically you drive straight north through China, a place called Dagan, Shangri-La, which is a part of China. And then you hit basically the Himalayas, which go across, and you go along the border between Myanmar, Burma, and China. And then it basically goes right across towards India. And that's where you go towards Everest. So we have to go through a place called Lhasa, which is, that's where the Dalai Lama used to live at the big monument in Lhasa. What's the hell of it? I forget the name now.
We'll put a picture up. Yeah. We'll show a picture.
Yeah, actually, I parked my bike in front of it, took some pictures of it. It was quite impressive.
Okay, I've often wondered what the border is like between Laos and China. Is it just like a little outpost, or is it like a proper?
That one, no. That one is not a little outpost. It's quite large because a lot of Chinese are developing, stealing lumber and other products from Laos. I mean, Laos has no production, and but they also develop Botan, which is in Laos, for casinos, and because there's no casinos allowed in China. So that was exploited by the Chinese quite a bit, some of the logs and stuff like that. So when you go from Bowdoin, which used to be just a little a dirt track, when you drive into the Chinese side, it's quite a large city. And you go through cities that you would just be amazed how big they are. I mean, I traveled to China 80 times in the past from business, and there's over 100 cities in China that have over 1 million people.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, some of these cities are not even, you don't even know who they are. And some of these ghost cities, like we stayed in this one city, and it was all empty buildings. And we stayed in this one hotel. It was like really, really eerie. But, that's just China. And like I said, some of the roads are amazing, and some of the roads under construction were the roads from hell. Really,
Yeah,
really
I was just
tough.
going to say, any really dangerous experiences?
Oh yeah, for sure. They don't. If you've driven in China, the Chinese never look back. So and if you're coming up and they're coming from the side road, they just cut in front of you. And they don't have any respect for drivers. That's just the way it is. I mean, people complain about Thailand. I never complain about Thai drivers. I mean, it's not the best situation, but it's way better than it is in China or Vietnam or Cambodia and Laos. I mean, it's much safer. At least there are semi rules here. a little bit of rules, which I love.
How about interesting people that you met on your journeys?
I met this one guy. He looked like Genghis Khan. He was riding a 200cc motorcycle. I got a picture with him. I was standing on a chair. I'm 6 foot -8. I'm vertically challenged.
Same.
And 5'4". So this guy, I was standing on a chair, and I was actually at his height. He was a huge guy. And but in China, you can ride your own motorcycle. It's not a big deal. And then I met a bunch of kids that were cycling through Everest or going to Lhasa from mainland China. I mean, crazy stuff. Those mountains are huge. I mean, you go up and up and up for 25, 30 kilometers up through these mountain passes. Insane.
Some of those people probably never saw a Westerner before, right?
Some of them, I would say, especially when you get further into Tibet, you get less. I mean, I'm the only Westerner in the group. All the rest are Thais. And so, yeah, I got looked at a lot and stuff like that. And Tibetan people and Chinese people are very different. They're not the same at all. The Chinese kind of fear the Tibetans. I don't know why, but even at gas stations, we weren't allowed to pull up to the pump. We had to fill up our motorcycles on the outside of the gas station with cans and filling up the motorcycle.
Why?
We would say, okay, I need about 6, because they're scared that we would light ourselves on fire. Because remember some Tibetans were lighting themselves on fire with gas and stuff like that. So they wouldn't let us get close to the pumps at all. I mean, it was really, really annoying. So you'd say, okay, I think I need 8 liters, and then you would put it into your motorcycle with a can that you would for flowers, except the spout wasn't spraying it. It was just a regular spout. It was stupid. But anyways, it is what it is. There was checkpoints between every 50 and 80 kilometers in Tibet where they would check your ID. So some guy would come out with your passport and look at you and say, "Can you take your helmet off?" And I'm going, "What are you, an idiot? I'm the only white guy here." And how the hell do you think I got here? I've been riding for 10 days. How do you think I got to Tibet? But they kept checking us all the time. It was getting very annoying, but hey, those are the rules and you just go with it. But what really made it interesting was the scenery. It was fantastic, and a pretty decent group.
And you said you did that in 33 days, was it?
Yeah, basically 33 days.
There and back.
There and back, yeah.
Whoa.
In Thailand, we say Jep Tut. Jep Tut means Jep Tut Mac Mac means sore ass, big time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, I say so.
It was tough.
So, did you have any idea as a young man that your life was gonna be like this? You're gonna be living in Asia, in Thailand?
Never even not when I was young. I mean, I was into skiing big time. I love the cold. Now I hate it. And when I came here in 2000, traveling around and stuff like that with the factories and meeting the people and stuff, I always found Thailand to be so attracting because people are so friendly. And at that time, we would take some customers to Phuket. We bring them to Bangkok and they take them to Phuket for a couple of days, we would bring customers for 8 days from North America. It's a really tough trip. And then I just really started to love the place. And I said, maybe someday I'll retire here. And yeah, the next thing you know, I went on my own, and most of my business was done in Southeast Asia. And actually, Thailand is a good hub if you're traveling to China, Indonesia, and Malaysia. So that's why I decided to stay in Bangkok at that time.
Can you see yourself in Thailand now for the long haul?
Yeah, I know that you're moving back, but which is a little bit sad. But you do what you have to do, and I'm sure at some point you'll be back. But yeah, I always tell people, I said, when would you be back? I said, I'll probably be back in a box, with the ashes. I don't really I have my son living in Canada, but I have another son that actually lives in Chonburi, which was going to university. And that's about it. My parents are gone, so there's really nothing for me in Canada except my brothers and sisters, which is great. But I just got back from a trip. I spent 6 weeks in Canada. I couldn't wait to get back here. I'm sure you've realized how much prices have gone up in Europe. It's the same thing in Canada. It just went nuts. I mean, what you pay, the value of what you get here is so much better. So that's why I'm not planning to go back. I can live a better life here with what I've got left.
So you mentioned you have a son in Chonburi.
Yep.
Canadian.
Yep.
And he's studying.
He's married to a Thai girl. He's on a marriage visa. He's a great kid. He just loved it here. I used to take my kids here on some trips when they were having issues with their mother, their ex. And so I backpacked with one of my sons for a month one time, got him to learn the ropes and stuff like that. He fell in love with the place, and he teaches, and he does online teaching as well, and got married, and he's having a good life here,
Wow. Okay, cool. So you mentioned at the very start of this interview that you're not a drinker.
No, I've never drank much in my life. I maybe drink one beer a month if I have to.
Wow.
I would rather, I've never been a drinker. I mean, like I said, when I went to China, the first years, I don't know if you've ever been to a Chinese meeting, but the guys, they all get around this round table. They're all smoking like chimneys, and they all start to drink, and they say, Gambe. Gambe is a challenge. And you have to, whatever's in your glass, you have to down it. Well, I'm going, okay. And then my interpreter is going, well, you have to drink. And I'm going, I don't drink. So the first times I got so hammered that I didn't even know what I was doing. So I learned really quick that you drink, for every beer, you drink one glass of full tea. And you just keep drinking tea. And then you don't get sick the next day. If you drink enough Chinese tea and beer, you don't get too drunk and you don't get sick the next day. So after a few bad nights, I learned that pretty quick. And I wouldn't drink there. They have this other stuff. It's called, it's like Muay Thai. It's not this. It's a different thing, like Muay Thai fighting, but it sounds like Muay Thai. Oh, it's unbelievable. It's like 80 proof stuff. It'll just kill you. And had a few nights of that. Never again. And I said, listen, I'll drink your beer. And they actually had some beer that was zero alcohol, which was great. But they don't even know that it's zero alcohol. It was hilarious. And but they're drinking this Muay Thai stuff, which is just wow. That you could use it for a flamethrower. Pretty rough stuff.
So Mike, do you think that because you're not a drinker, that is kind of benefited your life in Thailand, or you're very active? Is that, tell us about a typical day, because there's a lot of expats that go to Thailand and they do get caught up drinking too much. They hang around in bars. It leads to a downfall a lot of the time. Yeah. How about you?
What I was doing is that when I first, because I was still working when I was started living here. So I spent a lot of time online, speaking to customers with this, and then traveling to China as well. So I was still traveling quite a bit. And that's why I decided to live where I was en route, because I could get to the airport in 22 minutes. And so I was still traveling a lot. And at that time, I was still exercising a lot as well. I was running a lot. Now I can't, my knees just won't take it anymore. So I would, spend time at the gym And then, I'd like to go out dancing with my wife and stuff like that. And but I didn't get drunk. I mean, we'd have a couple of drinks and stuff like that, go down to the beach, enjoy the beach and stuff like that. We did some traveling around Thailand. And whenever we got somewhere, I would rent a scooter or something like that. We'd go exploring on the scooter or a car. So we went to Chiang Rai, Chiang Mai. I went to Pattaya, obviously, because it's so close to Bangkok, Koh Samet, down to Phuket, all around the island, stuff like that, Surat Thani. And then as the transition was, when I got this cancer thing, I had a little bit more time because I was going through the process of getting it rectified, rectified, play on
Love
words
it.
here. And so I had bought a scooter in Bangkok, and I was having a little bit more free time, and I was just discovering Bangkok on a scooter, and I would go out during the day, at night, and it's so easy to ride a scooter in Bangkok. And the next thing you know, I'm down in Pattaya on my scooter, and my wife says, I call her, and she goes, "Where are you?" I said, "I'm in Pattaya." "How did you get there?" I said, "Oh, I got there on my Honda Click." She goes, "Are you nuts?" I said, "No, I just was riding." And then I would ride, and then I went down to Rayong, and that's a good pull on a Click. But it can do it. It's very easy in Thailand if you have the time. But I realized I needed something with a little bit more power. So I decided to buy a Honda Forza, which is 300cc, use it for 5 months and put 15,000 kilometers on it. And I was just going on through my recovery. I just come back, and then I said, "I'm just going to go on a trip." And my wife says, "Where are you going to go?" I said, "I don't know. I'm just going to go north." And she goes, "Well, where are you going?" I said, "Well, I'll just look at the map and go day by day." That's what I did. And I was riding in the rainy season. It was July. So I rode up to Tak, and then to Mae Sot, and Mae Sot to Mae Sariang. Probably the most scary ride in my life because it was all under construction, red clay sliding down mountains and stuff. And but I still had a lot of fun. And then went up to Mae Hong Song, did the Pai, back down to Chiang Mai, over to Nan province, and then back down towards Pizza Look, and then back to Bangkok. That took about 2 weeks, and I went, "Wow, this is really fun. I mean, this is what I want to do." And then I kept my eyes open, and I bought a CB500X, which is it's made in Thailand, super affordable motorcycle, really practical. And I modified a little bit because I needed to lower it a little bit, stuff, because I'm short. And I'm just learning by the seat of my pants. And that was my introduction to my first trip in China. There was on something on Facebook, and it said, "Do you want to join this trip?" This wasn't the Tibet trip. This was just to Shangri-La. And so I sent them a message, and they said, "This is after riding about 6 or 7 months on my CB500X." And one of the guys spoke perfect English. Art. He owns a company that repairs BMWs, and he actually grew up in Buffalo, New York, but he's Thai, so he speaks perfect English. "Hey man, what do you want? You want to go with us to China?" And I said, "Yeah, why not?" He said, "What do you ride?" I said, "I ride a Honda." He says, "Oh, it's okay." He says, "We're all on BMWs." And he says, "We'll take care of you. Don't worry." So they call me Uncle Mike, and the guys did a great job. And we went for about 10 days, and we went up, into China. And I was ill prepared clothing wise. I had no good wet weather gear. It rained for the first 3 days. It was insane. Boulders on the road, and it was just wild. But I loved it. I mean, I was just going, I was just ecstatic. And those guys took care of me. They helped me to adjust my chain, and I had a really amazing time. And this really put the bug in me. And I said, "Yeah, I got to go check out the other countries around Thailand." So that's really got me going. And I used that bike the first year. I used it, and I put 50,000 kilometers on it. And that means I'm riding about average 4,000 a month, and I'm still married. And but I mean, it was just so exhilarating to discover all these places on a motorcycle. It's way different than driving a car.
Yeah,
For
yeah.
me, when you get into twisties, it's like skiing for me. I just stand up on the pegs and just drive the bike through I'm not a professional motorcycle rider. I'm not super fast. I'm not super slow. I'm just an average motorcycle guy, but very enthusiastic. And riding a motorcycle has a lot of the same feelings as skiing down a mountain. And I love going downhill on a motorcycle. A lot of guys don't like that part of it. I love it. For me, it's a bit like getting back on the skis, but a lot warmer.
So you mentioned that you're married. Is your wife Thai?
Uh, no, she's Canadian. No, she's Thai.
I was like, what?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, my other marriage ended up because I was traveling too much. But my wife has a small shop, which she does nails and eyelashes and stuff like that. So locally, she had a dress shop in Bangkok, but the rents are so high that it was very difficult. So now we live in Ubon Ratchathani province. So we're not living in Bangkok anymore for the last 3 years, and very small area. It's 30 kilometers from the main city, so very quiet little village. But it's yeah, it's nice. I like it. It's quite relaxed.
Any advice for anyone that is, say, similar age to you and is thinking, will I retire in Thailand? Will I make the move over there? Anything you want to say to them?
Well, I think that you have to have some, when you work all your life and you have and work as it's a habit, right? And you just go to do nothing and you just sit around and drink beer all day. I don't think you're gonna have a very good healthy lifestyle. And I see lots of people that, hey, listen, you can do what you like, but find some other kind of hobby. And Thailand has lots to offer. I mean, this country's got so much diversity for traveling. As you know, I mean, there's some great temples. I mean, people say, I've been to all the temples. Well, I can take you to some temples that'll blow your mind. I mean, the construction of them up on the side of the mountains. There's one especially up in the north here in Buangkan, which is called Putok. It's got 7 levels that you climb up. It takes an hour and a half just to get to the top part. And it's got all these ramparts built along this wall. It's really spectacular. So yeah, it's a temple, but it's the views from the top are just like amazing. So there's so much area to travel in this country that you can just, I mean, 400,000 kilometers I haven't discovered at all. But that includes Laos, Cambodia, Myanmar, Vietnam, China, and hopefully next year I'm thinking about Indonesia, which would be a big trip. That would probably take 6 to 8 weeks on a motorcycle to discover that country, which is massive. But yeah, there's just so much to discover, and you don't have to do it on a big bike. You can do it on a scooter. I met lots of guys riding around. You just sold your what was it, a Scoopy that you had?
Yeah.
I met guys on these trails up in the north. One guy was on a Honda Click, and the guy had traveled 15,000 kilometers on a Honda Click all over Thailand. And he's not in a hurry. He's backpacking, and he just, puts a bag in the back of it, and he's happy. Costs nothing to run, and the parts are very cheap to fix it. And so you can enjoy this country very easy compared to traveling in North America or Europe. I can't even imagine traveling in Europe on a motorcycle. So expensive. Whereas in Thailand.
Do you recommend that if someone's going to move over here, to find a hobby?
Yeah, fine. Do something. I mean, whether it's, everybody says, if you want to make $1 million in Thailand, bring 2. And you might be left with 1. It's very difficult to make money here because, we're foreigners. We don't know the business. There's, I tried some business in Bangkok. I'm not even go into it, but it was a disaster. And it really made me realize that this is not my place to start to try to make money. I know guys that run bars and stuff like that, but there's only very few guys that have been successful at it. There's a few. And even guys that do restaurants and stuff like that. Some guys are I would say 80% of the guys fail and maybe 20% succeed, because it's very difficult to do that kind of business in Thailand. It's got low wages, but it also makes low money in comparison to other countries. So it's very difficult to make money here.
So Mike, before we finish it up, do you have anything you want to tell the world? Any last kind of words before we end it?
Well, live your life to the max. I mean, life is short. I have lots of my friends that retired. Next day they died. It really sucks. You work all your life to do something, and then you want to retire. And so don't wait till it's too late. Go out and enjoy some of your life and things like that, and go explore the world. I mean, you don't have to do it on a motorcycle. You can do it by trains, planes, and automobiles. In Thailand, how you know how cheap it is to travel here. It's insane. And it's the same thing if you go into Cambodia or into Laos or Vietnam. It's not an expensive place to travel. Bang for the buck. It's unbeatable, Southeast Asia. It's very unbelievable. And lots to do and lots to see. Lots of great food. Lots of great, lots of good stuff, lots of positive energy. So
Okay,
yeah,
cool. Well, Mike,
definitely.
what I'll do is I'll link your channel in the description. Okay. So, I mean, you've got some really good traveling content there. I think people will be interested in checking out your channel. So I'll tell anyone watching this, go over and check out Mike's channel. Link is in the description. And subscribe to this channel if you're not already subscribed. We're doing the remote interviews now. We've got some more lined up.
I think it's great.
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
Anytime. I mean, I will definitely link your channel on my next video.
Yeah.
And also my Facebook page, which has probably 7,500 followers on my Amazing Thailand page. Because I was, when you do YouTube, you can't just ride. You have to ride, do videos, which I just did in Laos, my last big trip. And that's very difficult to do if you're just riding, 50,000 kilometers a year.
It's been a pleasure talking to you. I really appreciate
same
you taking
here.
the time. Thanks very much.
I hope that your new venture will go. I'm sure it'll go very, very good. And
yeah, I mean,
will be successful.
Yeah, it's a risk, but life's a risk. Like you're not going to get anything if you stay in your comfort zone. And I'm going to make a video on it. I don't know if I have released a video by the time this video comes out, but I definitely am noticing some interesting things. Reverse culture shock is one of them.
Absolutely.
I'm back in the Western world, dog eat dog. But in a way, it's kind of I'm excited as well. I'm like, wow, okay, new challenge. Let's see what you can do here.
But you're a young fellow.
Yeah.
Like 35?
35. So
yeah,
and I know
I'm
that
68, So we have different needs, right? I really don't want to go back to work, But if I had to, I guess I could. But that or I could be, I could go to Ukraine and get a job, I'm sure. Carrying ammunition. But yeah, it's the world is very tumultuous right now, and it's very tough. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, so you might as well try to live as much as you can now.
Exactly.
And work hard. That's what I did all my life, and now I'm reaping some of the benefits. And but some days are challenging more than others, and you just have to roll with the punches.
All right, Mike. Well, thanks very much. We're going to leave it here. Subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to Mike's channel. It's a pleasure talking to you. We'll do it again, Mike. We'll have you on again.
Okay.
If you're interested.
Hey, no problem. Anytime.
All right. Take care. We'll chat. We'll keep chatting.
Okay.
Thanks very much.
Okay.
Take it easy.